All right, CBN Governor Olayemeka Adoso there. And of course, we're moving straight to Lagos now, where we are being joined by Dr. Nnemeka Obiariri, who is a development economist and banking executive. Thank you so much for joining us to help us understand all the issues. Now, no more overdraft for the federal government of Nigeria. How will the federal government cope in the light of dwindling revenues in the year 2024?
Thank you, Sambo. The federal government of Nigeria does not have any revenue problem because we know what to do to raise revenues. What we have is overbloated expenditure that is creating problem for Nigeria. If you look at the 2024 budget, 28.7 trillion, between the wages and non-wages expenditure, we have over 16 trillion that is budgeted for wages and then debt servicing recurrent expenditure. Practically, the deficit that we are going to be borrowing is what we are going to be investing in capital project. Everything we are going to earn based on the revenue side is going to be wasted on less than 1 million civil servants and political office holders, which is not right. We need to find ways of cutting cost of governance by at least 60%. Just take, for instance, the issue of the committee that was set up to discuss review of minimum wage for civil servants. 37-member committee. It was alleged that they made a request to Mr. President for 1.8 trillion for committee allowances, and then he approved 500 million. There is no basis for us to even approve 1 naira for such committee. Look back, in 2011, when minimum wage was 18,000, the exchange rate was 155 naira to $1. That simply means minimum wage was $116. In 2018, when it was reviewed, exchange rate was 361. Minimum wage was $83. It's just simple. You don't need any skyrocket science. Average of 116 plus 83.
Yeah, I just needed to cut in there.
99.5.
Dr. Obiariri, I just needed to cut in there that it's actually 1.8 billion that was requested, and then it was cut down to 1 billion, which was formally made as a request. And then, of course, President Tinubu is said to have approved 500 million naira. So I just needed to put that correctly. Just go ahead then.
Sambo, we have no. This is the kind of things that infuriates Nigerians. This is the kind of things that makes Nigerians see the political office holders as very insensitive. I'm telling you the shortest cost around this. Minimum wage 2011 was $116. Minimum wage 2018, $83. Average of minimum wage 2011-2018 is $99.5. What is the current NAFEM rate? Apply it. Minimum wage for civil servants should range between 100,000 to 150,000 naira per month. You don't need an overbloated committee of 37 men that will still eat up into the scarce revenues that we have for them to decide. Even the civil servants know what is due to them. So we do not need any skyrocket science to scientifically derive what is the minimum wage that can at least assuage the suffering of the civil servants. 100,000 to 150,000 is the range. You don't need any committee wasting our 1 billion naira or 500 million naira for that committee. They should take note of this. Now, Cardoso says some very interesting things. I am so glad to hear that they've eliminated ways and means. And again, he also mentioned the issue of liquidity that came in of about $1 billion. And of course, that has to do with some of the deft policy steps that he has taken. By moving the treasury bills rate to the level it is today, you will see clearly that over 1.3 trillion was mopped out of the market. Now there's a kind of certainty within that market. Most people that will have taken flight to dollar have now seen outlets where they can get at least 19%, which actually is 22%, rather than keeping their monies in deposit money banks at 3-4%. That does not make any meaning when inflation rate is above 28%. Beyond the steps he has taken, like I said, we don't have a revenue problem. What we have is overbloated cost and corruption problem that we need to tackle. On the revenue side, beyond the FPIs that are going to come in to take advantage of the high rates, and of course there's going to be a lot of swaps and all those stuff. The NNPC, the fiscal side, the federal government must take steps. I've always advocated this. NNPC today is valued at over $60 billion. Do you know what it will what will happen and the signal it will send to the global world. If the federal government of Nigeria decide to take a step to privatize and divest 55% of its holding in NPC, just like they did in LNG, and bring in deep-pocketed, technically savvy private investors, that will get in at least $32 billion into the federation account. Enough liquidity to cushion the effect. And now let me tell you what will happen. This NNPC that is now privately run in the real sense of it, with diverse shareholders being controlled by the private, can be listed on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Imagine what will happen. And let me tell you, like you talked last time I came to your studio, you were talking about the IOCs leaving the market. A transparently run NNPC today, if they want to go into the upstream to open marginal fields and invest and expand investment there, and transparently run a little, if they decide to float diaspora bond of $10-20 billion to 10-year diaspora bond, even at 5%, to do investment in the upstream sector that will enable them to unlock the value chains there, most Nigerians will subscribe to it. Like I said, we know the things, the right things to do to unlock the market, to bring in investment into Nigeria, to show up the supply side of the dollar. But those on the physical side should need to start cracking. Somebody will tell me, oh, it will take longer time to divest and all those stuff. You can appoint a JP Morgan Chase or a Goldman Sachs to midwife it. Once it's already announced that such process is in place, we can easily raise a bridging facility against the proceeds that will come to the federal government of not less than $15 billion. This is structured and financial engineering that can be done if these guys are very, very sincere. NNPC, as currently structured and are currently run, is not too transparent, is not efficient. Today, like I said, we have a lot of marginal fuels that are being recovered that are still out there. If we want to get people to bid for those marginal fuels, you know, this era of giving marginal fuel to people who have not demonstrated technical savvy or financial capacity because they know somebody up there in Aso Rock has to end. Anybody that is going to get the marginal fuel must show.
So sorry, I just have to cut in here because you've said so much within a very short space of time. I just want to go through the CBN governor's statement. He said on their own part, from the monetary part, they've done their part. And so it was like throwing the ball to the Minister of Finance for the fiscal policies that will now be awaited to help strengthen the economic policies of the government. How soon do you think that we should be expecting such fiscal policies from the other side? Because it's a two-way game, actually.
Sambo, that is what I was trying to enunciate. I can tell you, kudos to Oluyemi Kadoso. I can tell you, the little he has done so far within the short span of time that he has been in the office, I tell you, I am mightily impressed. If those on the physical side are matching the speed, the excellence, the proactiveness that Oluyemi Kadoso have displayed on the monetary side, I think the confidence that will boost the hope of Nigerians will have been established. Now, like I said, the physical side should be in a hurry. The Minister for Finance, who is also the coordinating Minister of the Economy, has a lot of job to do. I have given you a snippet, and you didn't allow me even to finish. Like now, we have a lot of marginal fuels in the bucket that need to be in the play.
Just go ahead.
Okay, Sambo. So for us to go into the marginal field, anybody who is going to bid for marginal field must show capacity. In fact, it's no longer going to be business as usual. Any marginal field or whatever you're going to that will be able to produce about 1,000 to 5,000 barrels of crude every day. You must also collocate refineries, modular refineries within the same location. You must provide at least a letter of guarantee from a first class A bank that shows that they are willing to fund you, that are willing to support you. Let me tell you what will happen. We've been able to do in the past 2.5 million barrels of crude oil. We have 37 billion barrel reserve, which we can ramp up to $40 billion barrels, which is almost about 40-year reserve. If we decide today to ramp up to 3 million barrels, under this arrangement, transparently arrangement, it will happen. Even if we have OPEC quota of 1.78 or 1.8, we can meet OPEC quota and everything that is produced outside that will be refined here. We will control the vast sub-Saharan African refined product market. And see, let me tell you, confidence in the investing public is boosted when they see transparency, when they see, like what Kadoso is doing in CBN, is boosting confidence. But everybody is watching with bated breath what those on the physical side will do. Take Take for instance now, we're talking about the cost of energy and everything. Why is NMPDRA still charging 1% on percent cost on imported petroleum product? It does not make sense. Why is Nigerian Customs Service Department increasing the exchange rate to 1356 when they should have left it at that level? Let me tell you, Nigeria today must import a lot of things. We don't have technology here, we must import technology. Most of the things, but we must, like, you know, he said something about Nigeria should tailor down on their quest for dollar. Education spent almost about $28 billion over the last years. Very, very good. I will even encourage more Nigerians to go out there and acquire more education. On health tourism, does it not bother you that across Nigeria, there was a group that we met, an Israeli group, the guys that funded most of the equipment of the Apollo group in India, where most of our people run to. And these guys were willing to work with some select groups to set up 6 world-class diagnostic medical hospitals in every of the 6 regions in Nigeria. What does it take to set up world-class medical centers in every region of Nigeria? If you decide today, federal government wants to do it, there are a lot of private investors working with the Elsmed Tel Aviv who can come in here and do it. In 2 years, we will have world-class medical centers.
I thought we already had some of them already coming in, because like Afrek Zimban, for example, is building a medical center of excellence in Abuja here, and we hear that there are others who also showing interest in other regions of the country. Very good one you've brought in there. But I want you, Dr. Obiariri, to talk to us about some of the issues Cardoso raised on these ways and means, because, I mean, we've seen the previous amounts that was securitized under Buhari, and then, of course, President Tinubu also asked for, I think, about 7-point-something trillion to be securitized on this ways and means sometime around December. But what he said, and I want to quote him here, is that empirical analysis has established that money supply is one of the factors fueling the current inflationary pressure in Nigeria. How do we contain the money supply within the system?
The money supply mostly came about with the ways and means 23 trillion naira that was thrown into the economy without any project to support it, and the 7.3 trillion that came in through Tinubu over the last 7 years. And beyond that, if those, just close your mind and imagine if those 23 trillions were invested in the rail sector of the economy. Close your mind and imagine if those part of those monies were used to develop, say, 1 million hectares of date palm plantation in the north, 500,000 hectares of palm, terra palm tree in the south, and then 2 million hectares of rice value chain. Just close your eyes. If they had printed a naira to support productivity, we wouldn't be where we are today. We know the truth. The net dollar inflow and the net dollar outflow over the last 8 years, Nigeria will have had surplus inflow. But basically what happened was that the real demand for the dollar for traditional purposes wouldn't have put us in the mess we are. What is driving the madness is the speculative demand, because people are afraid, and then the corruption-driven demand. Like I said, EFCC, ICPC, and the CBN, they have a lot of jobs to do in curtailing the quest for the dollar by the governors and those in the subnational units, and even those in the MDAs. Because one of the areas through which they launder money in Nigeria is either investment in luxury real estate or in dollar. And I've advocated ways we can checkmate this. Anybody who wants to register going forward, amend the laws. You must indicate your NIN, your BVN, and your TIN for you to register any land or register any, even to register a company in CAC. By doing so, even when they want to use front to do those things, it will be very difficult. It will be easy for EFCC to track them. Then, on the issue of public, no public sector official should go into office without publicly declaring his assets, which must be established in an e-portal. Anybody who does not want to go into the kitchen because of his should avoid the kitchen. Being a public officer exposes you to checks and balances. When we do this, then we put in place the Whistleblowing Act, establish CCB offices in every of the 74 local government areas. Any Nigerian that helps to blow the whistle gets 20% of whatever is discovered. It will make every Nigerian EFCC agent. Deterrence is the only way you can fight corruption. Let me tell you, eliminate the corruption pressure on the dollar. The naira and the dollar will be very stable. Because the average trader who goes to buy things from China does 90-day cycle. He's not buying the dollar to put into his sock away or to hide it under his bed or to siphon it and keep in coded accounts from Cayman Island to Bermuda and all those stuff. The average trader that takes dollar to go and buy things comes in, sells them 90-day, 180-day cycle. So they keep on recycling the dollar. What is happening that most of the dollar that comes to Nigeria I siphoned out, and that is why I also want to plead with President Bola Tinubu to develop that political muscle, not like Obasanjo, and begin to ask questions. Everybody who took away our dollar, illegally or legally, should be made to at least let them negotiate and return 70% to us and keep 30%.
All right, interesting submission you've got there. Now, there were some very sound submissions by Governor Cardoso there too. One of the things he said is that CBN will no longer be intervening in some development finance issues. I thought he was referring to the Anchor Borrowers Program, because he said we have also halted quasi-fiscal measures of over 10 trillion by the CBN under the guise of development finance intervention to flooding excess naira and raising prices to the levels of inflation we are currently grappling with today. Remove the CBN from those kind of interventions. Aren't we going to have a situation whereby people who previously participated within those kind of interventions will be laid bare without support, since banks, commercial banks, are not funding agriculture, for example?
I think you misunderstood Oluyemi Cardoso. Cardoso said the CBN is not going to be directly involved. What he simply said that if the physical managers put the structure in place, the CBN will support them. Let me give you an example. To cover the supply, palm oil supply gap, domestic supply gap in Nigeria, we need to cultivate at least 400,000 to 500,000 hectares of land. Take, for instance, Abia State. Abia State has 184 electoral ward. Imo State has 305 electoral ward. Just close your eyes and imagine if Imo State or Abia State government, like Abia State government is already doing it, we are working with them on that. Take, for instance, if Imo State government follows Abia State government, Abia is planning to do at least 50 hectares of new tenera palm plantation in every of the electoral wards in Abia State. And it's going to be under private-public arrangement. Every community will clear their land, set up a cooperative that is well structured to develop a hectare of the tenera palm plantation from nursery to harvesting will take about 1.5 million naira. So close your eyes and imagine 50 hectares of new tenera palm plantation in 184 electoral wards in Abia State. Every of the local communities having a cooperative. If such structures are put in place, Cardoso will support them with funds, because it simply means you know where the funds are going to. And what this will simply mean is that as these tenera palm plantations are developing, in every local government area there will be 2 cottage factories established to process them. We're talking about injecting over 100 billion naira into the economy of each of these states on such a very scientific arrangement. But Cardoso is not going to give the money and help them to structure it. Abia State is doing fantastic on that. We're already working with them on that side. Take, for instance, if every state in the southeast decide to adopt the same model, put the structures in place, put the people into cooperatives, provide a kind of a guarantee and the sovereign support for them, and call the CBN, tell CBN, this is what we are going to do. If we cultivate these 50 hectares of palm plantation, in the next 4 years, we'll be generating at least 2 million naira from the upstream on every of the hectare of land, plus the whole value chain income that will come with it. Over 50,000 jobs will be created under this value chain. Cardoso will see it and Cardoso will support them. In the north, they can decide every state 50,000 hectares of date palm plantation, 1 million hectares in the next 4 years. Each of the northern states, all of them aggregated, will make about $12.7 billion annually over the next 70 years. Put the structure in place. If you have this arrangement, it will even help you to stop farm rangers and collocate the nomadic herdsmen to even graze their cows within those clusters. 80 hectares clusters of 1,250 will create massive jobs in every cluster. Put 25 agro rangers fully trained and armed. You will have 25,000 to 50,000 agro rangers that will help to checkmate insecurity in the north. Help us to check the certification. But Cardoso will not put this structure in place. The governors and local government chairmen will put the structure in place for Cardoso to give them funds.
All right, interesting submission, but you didn't really answer my question. We'll be going on break. When we come back,